Welcome to PAMED Talks, a podcast brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. I'm Mila Merkel, PAMED's Communications Director, and today we're joined by Zach Gates, our Senior Director of Government Relations, for the very first episode of a series we're calling the Legislative Corner. In this series, we'll take you behind the scenes of PAMED's advocacy and share more ways for you to get involved and make a difference. Zach, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to talk to you about PAMED's advocacy efforts and the upcoming events that we're hosting to give physicians the opportunity to get more involved. So PAMED's recently visited the American Medical Association's National Advocacy Conference in DC. Can you talk to us about what NAC is and why it's important?
Sure. So thanks, Mila. As you said, it's the American Medical Association's National Advocacy Conference. It's 3 days down in DC where physicians all across the Commonwealth converge on DC, and physicians all across the country converge on DC to talk about issues important to them, their patients, and just the overall practice of medicine within PAMED and AMA policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you explain what PAMED's goals were at NAC this year?
Sure. So PAMED physicians, we went down there with the goal of advocating on really three main issues: Medicare reimbursement, prior authorization reform, and Medicaid funding. And our physicians, we had about 15 physicians from across the state that met with their member of Congress on those three main issues, and both of our senators to advocate, as I mentioned, for not only themselves, but for their patients.
Yeah. So any meetings or moments that stood out to you in the meeting while everybody was meeting with their different legislators and talking about these issues that have been around PAMED for a really long time and remain a priority for us?
Yeah. So, I think one of the main things that always sticks out to me, and that's important for me, being the head of government relations here, is anytime we walk into a meeting and a legislator, whether that be a state legislator, a township commissioner, to a member of Congress, walks into a meeting with one of our physicians and says, "Oh, hi, hi, Dr. Smith, thanks for being here. Glad you made the trek down," whether that's, from, Johnstown to Harrisburg, or from Johnstown to DC. It's very important for them to have those relationships, not only meeting in the Harrisburg offices or in the DC offices, but being involved back home, being a resource, building that relationship with their member of Congress back home, so that when something comes up, a bill comes up on prior auth reform that we were there talking about, comes up in Washington, that they're able to pick up the phone and call Dr. Smith in their hometown and say, "What do you think about that?" And they're not just, we want them to call us here at PAMED, but we want them calling their folks in the district. It's important that we're all communicating and that we all have the relationship in order for folks back home to pick up the phone and call their legislators.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So 15 physicians from Pennsylvania came down.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest takeaway from them for this year?
So I think a lot of it, as I said, was really building on those relationships. I think for the physicians who, whether it was their first time getting involved in advocacy or their first time hearing about some of these issues, I think they also saw the importance of having those relationships. Yeah. And so one of the things that we tried to do, whether it was through the meetings with the AMA before we went to Capitol Hill, I think really saying, "Hey, it's great you're here in DC for these advocacy days, but one of the things that is more important is that when you go home, when you go back home, and the other 364 days of the year, that you're also doing this advocacy, that you're doing it back home." And so I think, if we're talking about things that our physicians can take away from that, that's one big thing that I personally would love for them to be able to take away, is, just building those relationships back in the district, back in their community, where, their patients are and where their legislators are.
Yeah, good point. What can physicians expect for next year's meeting? What are you looking forward to?
So I think with next year's meeting, certainly we have a lot of changes that could potentially come with November's election. I think, there's a possibility for changes in the Pennsylvania delegation congressionally. But I think one of the things that we're trying to build on for next year is the amount of physicians that come. Yeah. We're thrilled that we had 15 Pennsylvania physicians come down. But really, for our delegation, I think it would really be beneficial to have that number from each congressional delegation, right?
Yeah.
Like to get more physicians involved and show them that you know, you can be involved. You don't have to be an expert on every issue that comes before Congress. Not even every member of Congress is an expert on all the issues that come before them. But you are a member of their district, and you know that is more important than knowing every issue that comes before them, even healthcare related or not.
Yeah.
And so I think just showing up is 75% of the battle. And if you can just show up, we'll be able to have more successful advocacy efforts.
Great. Well, speaking of getting involved, I know that the legislative team is planning an upcoming advocacy day later this year. So for those who want to get involved, tell us a little bit about what we're planning.
Sure. So September 29th, we're looking at doing a advocacy day here in Harrisburg, in the state capitol. Some stuff still to be determined how it's going to work. But keep an eye, and I'll do a little plug.
Sure.
For the dose, but keep an eye on PAMED's The Dose. We will have more information about registration a little bit towards the beginning of the summer, around Memorial Day, about how to register for that, along with the potential agenda and some things about how it's actually going to work. But like I said, September 29th, hoping our docs can put it on their calendars. And keep an eye out for registration information.
Cool. Who's this open to? What kind? Is it all of our?
So we're hoping for all of our members. We're hoping that we get a good amount of physicians who show up. I know a lot of our physicians are excited about Advocacy Day coming back. We haven't done it since 2019 with COVID and some other things. So we're really hoping that we get a decent amount of physicians who show up on September 29th.
Yeah, I hope so too. That'll be really exciting. Well, thanks for coming, Zach. Can you remind our listeners where you can find resources on PAMED's website about legislative topics or the dates to save the date for the
so PAMEDSOC.org, under the Advocacy Priorities tab, you'll be able to find more, and you'll see all of our advocacy priorities from PAMED. You'll see articles from your team, and the save the date for the advocacy, and some information about PAMPAC, our political arm, as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks, Zach. Thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you.